Hi everybody, today I'm going to be working in this book here which is called Find Colour by Gugeli or Gugeli, and this is a really lovely book. I'm sure it's one that lots of us do have, but it is quite intimidating because the pictures are really detailed, really beautiful images in here, and the paper is kind of weird. It's more towards the watercolour paper side of things than towards the colouring book paper, so pencils don't seem to work super well in it. So what I've decided to try and do is to use some Prismacolors on this paper, as they're really soft pencils. I thought they might work quite well on the watercolor paper. And I have done a little bit of a test on one of the images at the front, if I can show you. Yeah, just a tiny little bit of a test there, if that's showing up. I've tried with the Prismacolors and they seem to be working okay. The paper isn't ideal, as I said, and the colours aren't quite as vibrant as maybe they could be, but I think I can work with it. And the picture that I've decided to do is kind of towards the more gothic, sort of darker side of colouring pages, because it is spooky season and that is my theme for the month. So if anybody doesn't want to watch, then I quite understand. I'll show a quick kind of preview of the page before I start working. So everyone can maybe judge for themselves whether they want to watch this video or not. I'm going to be working on this lady here, which is my favourite picture in the book, and I've been looking forward to colouring this one for quite some time. But because the book is really kind of intimidating, as you can see, that the style of the illustrations is really kind of detailed, maybe a little complicated, very kind of off-putting. You don't want to mess it up, but I figured the best way to get around that is to just dive in, pick my favourite picture, dive in, see what I can make happen. I have the Prismacolors, as I've said. I've got my Albrecht Dürer watercolour pencil standing by, because this paper does take quite well to watercolour, so if all else fails I could go for the watercolour pencils or the actual watercolour itself. I don't have much of an idea of how to go about colouring this page. The only kind of inkling I've got in my little head at the minute is to make this butterfly my usual kind of monarch style butterfly, have him glowing, and then bring in lots of blues into the rest of the picture to try and complement that orange of the butterfly. Again, going for the blue and orange. I do love that contrast of blue and orange, and I do like to colour my butterflies as the monarch style. So that is the picture I will be working on. As I said, it's more kind of gothic, kind of one of the darker pictures in this book, but it is my absolute favourite one, and it fits in quite well with my kind of spooky season sort of vibe I have going on this month. So if anybody does want to turn off and not actually watch me colour this image, it's a little bit too dark, then I quite understand. So thank you for watching so far, and I'll see you in future videos. Anybody else? Yeah, I will zoom in and we'll start working on this lady here, see what I can make happen. No concrete plans at the moment, as I said, but I'll see what I can make happen. So I'll zoom us in. Okay, I've moved us down a little bit there, focused in on the butterfly as well as I could, because that's the part I'm wanting to be starting with. That's the only part I really have a concrete idea for. No idea how well I'm going to be able to make this work, but I figure I'll just film the whole session today. I'd make it into a bit of a colour along in case anybody does want to follow along, and I will leave it as unedited as possible, aside from the, pencil sharpening breaks, coffee breaks, breaks to feed the cat, that kind of thing. Anytime I trip over my words or stumble with what I'm saying, I will be editing that, but I'm going to try and leave this as unedited as possible, because I am working on a bit of a big project in the background at the moment, so I'm not really going to have super much time for editing. Hopefully you'll get to see that big project before the end of the month, but for now, yeah, I'm going to concentrate on trying to make this butterfly look as if he's glowing. As I like to colour my butterflies as the monarch style, we'll be doing him orange with a black edge to his wings, the white dots, and very light, bright colours I'm thinking there. There will be a lot of kind of white highlights around him. The paper is slightly off-white, so I'm guessing this white will hopefully be showing up well enough on these areas closer around the butterfly. We'll give some fairly dramatic shadows around here, I'm thinking. Once everything starts moving, I start figuring out how things are going to go. Kind of on the fly, as I said, I've been working on this big project in the background that I'm looking forward to show you at least the highlights of in future videos. Hopefully before the end of the month we'll be able to see that, but as I said, well, first of all we'll start working on this butterfly, and this is obviously the white and that is probably not showing up super well on camera, but I do want it to look as if there is kind of a white glow around this butterfly. I'll probably come in with the white gel pen to emphasize that, just to give myself a little bit of an idea where the main kind of glow of this butterfly will be coming. If this effect works, hopefully it'll work quite well. Again, as usual, if it works as it's working in my head, then yeah, we're going to have something quite nice at the end of it. Some bits I haven't planned out. I see edges here. I haven't quite planned out the background, the colours for the flowers, anything like that. I have the vague idea of using the shades of blue, as I've said, but that's as far as I really got. I'm thinking maybe to give her the white face, which as she's quite far away from the light source, which is going to be the butterfly here, her face will be mainly grey, but hopefully because the rest of the page will be looking pretty dark, we will be able to get her face looking as if it's white with the red lips and a little bit of the red around her eyes, like the traditional kind of Japanese sort of makeup there. This is the vague idea I have. But as usual, jumping in with no clear plans, it's the way that I work, I'm afraid. So yeah, if this works out, then you'll get to see a nice picture. If it doesn't work out, you'll get to see how not to colour in this book, as usual. So we do want this butterfly to be looking kind of very bright and glowy, so we want these colours to be really, really bright, saturated, mainly the lighter side of these colours. And I'm doing the orange first before putting in the black, because I don't really want the black to be dragging down into these really bright colours that I want to have going on here. And we'll be going over these dots on the edges of the wings there. We'll be going over there with the black Prismacolor, hopefully. This one is called Orange. I do just have the 48 set, which I was kindly passed on to. A lovely colouring friend of mine passed on her small set of Prismacolors when she upgraded to a bigger set. So I have actually got them to play around with now, which is super cool. This one is called Yellowed Orange. I'll probably end up using pretty much all of the pencils in the set, as it is a small set. And testing them out. Yeah, you're choosing this picture to test them out on seemed to be quite a good idea. This is what I was kind of listening to my gut feeling, listening to my heart, I suppose. This was the picture that I really wanted to colour in, so I do apologise if it is a little bit on the gothic kind of dark side. But I do love this picture. There's one very similar in a Selena Fenwick book that I also wouldn't mind colouring in. Maybe with a different colour scheme, since I've used the orange and the blue on this one, hopefully, if that works out right. So we're going to give him the black edges to his wings here, just with the black. What was that yellow? That yellow was canary yellow. That yellow was that I just used there. And as this is meant to be a colour along, not really a tutorial, more of a sort of colour along for anybody who does want to use this colour scheme, if we do end up getting something that works quite well. This is the black that we're just putting in the edges to the wings there that the monarch butterfly does have. We do want him to be really the focus of the picture. He's going to be glowing. This is the plan anyway. I have no idea if I'll be able to make it work, as I've said, but yeah, this is the plan. And if the video is out, then I will put into the description whether we do actually have something that works or not, just so you guys know whether it's worth following along. So it will be a long video. More for those kind of people who do want to follow along and get the same kind of colour going. I've no idea how well I'll be able to talk all my way through, because it's going to take at least a few hours, I'm thinking. Maybe run on quite a long time, so I'm not entirely entirely sure what I'm trying to talk about the whole way through. If not, maybe I'll try and find some music to put on, but I'd rather hold off on that because, yeah, even using music from YouTube's own library, it got copyright claimed on. Music from the music from YouTube's own library got me a copyright claim on it. So I'd rather stay away from music if at all possible. Okay, let's get these white dots onto the wings if I can make this gel pen work. I've been having trouble with my gel pens lately. They've just been stopping working after a few little kind of marks with them. They've been stopping working, and it's a brand new pack of gel pens that I bought from Amazon. So yeah, not too completely happy with that. And yeah, as we've done the butterfly now, that is as far as my limited plans really go. I think kind of torso with the butterfly, if you're doing this kind of monarch butterfly, it does end up with a few little marks on, as we do want him to look as if he's glowing. Maybe adding in that white gel pen to the wings might help with that effect. I'm guessing. Not something I've practiced with super much, but at least it's looking like a pretty butterfly, even if he doesn't look as if he's glowing. He should do if the glow works as well as I'm planning it to. And you can probably see there the colours are not quite as bright as I would maybe hope them to be, even going over with the orange again. This is a yellow orange. Even going over with the yellow orange there is not really brightening the colours. Maybe if we go with the orange. No, the colours are not working super brightly, but the paper is kind of an off-white and it is very soft. It's heading towards watercolour kind of paper, and it does work super well with watercolours. I have used watercolours. I have a whip in the beginning, so I have used watercolours quite a lot with this actual paper, and they do seem to work really well. So for these bits around the butterfly, I want this to be fairly light, but we're going to come in with some quite dark shadows because we do want the shadows to be quite defined around where the butterfly is, because that is where the light is going to be. This is the plan. This is cream or creme. I'm not entirely sure how we would say that. Creme, I think that is. So we're bringing in a little bit of this around where the main light would be. I'm trying not to press super hard because the paper is very soft and it tends to squish. It squishes when you go too hard with the pencils. Arteza and Castle Art were not working super well on this paper. I don't know if any of you have found that, but this paper tends not to work, for me anyway, super well for the Castle Art and Arteza. And heading further up here, this white, this cream rather, would be more of a highlight colour, as I want the bones up here to be a lot darker as we're coming away from the light. Although I haven't planned, as I've said. So I have no idea how the result of this will turn out. Hopefully quite nicely. And we can see that even in the grayscale, this part here is fairly well shadowed. So we're just going to have a hint of colour, with maybe some dark browns and blacks coming in up there. Some more cream up there. Do we have? No, maybe we do. Maybe these are bones down here as well. Yep, this one is slightly more gothic, darker than the rest of the pictures in this book. but it is my favourite. I do love this kind of dark kind of gothic style art, and hopefully you guys won't mind too much. Is that, have we done it wrong there? Maybe that's the bones there. Okay, eraser. Yeah, I'm thinking that. I think that is supposed to be flowers there, but it's a fairly even spacing, so we'll just cover that with the darker colours. These things happen. Yeah, but it's looking like that's more of the spine continuing down there, so we'll go in with that. I'm going to need probably a little bit of cream on these arms here as well, with some white. I bring in the white gel pen highlight, especially around this area where we want the butterfly to be lighting things up. But coming up towards the top here, I'm thinking we could have the more browns coming in, and if we make her hair pretty dark, that should make the browns actually look lighter, because if we put darker colours around it, that will make the colour, the main colour itself, look lighter, if that makes sense. Okay, probably a little bit of a cut there while I figured out how to actually phrase what I'm trying to say. So take this queen for example. If we left that on its own on a page of white, a page of bright white, this cream would look fairly dark. If all we surrounded it with was lighter colours, then the cream itself would look fairly dark. But if we surround it with black and dark brown, don't have much white actually creeping into the picture at all, that would make the cream look lighter. So depending on what colours you put around it, it can affect the colour you're actually using to make it look different, depending on what colours you put in the background or actually use. We actually only want the white pencil we've actually used here to try and bring out a little bit of white into this kind of off-white of the paper, but the only white we really want to be using is here around where we want the glow. Even though we want her face to be white, that's going to be up in the shadow, so that was going to be mostly grey if my plan goes according to plan. Although, looking at my set, having a very quick overview here, I don't really seem to have many greys. We might need to bring in the watercolour pencils, unless I can come up with some sort of creative solution up there. Maybe use the shades of the blues to try and bring that grey into it. But for now, I'll concentrate on what we're actually doing there. So for a darker shade of brown, I have picked out the light umber here. That's PC941. I'm not sure if I should be mentioning numbers or not. But this one is light umber. We're going to try and start to bring in a few shadows. I'm not really very great at using Prismacolors. This is my first set that I've really tried, so I'm trying to figure it out as I go here. I might not be the best at using them. This is my first kind of real try out in this paper especially, but it's my first real set that I've had to try out, so I'm not anyway an expert. So yeah, if anybody knows how to do this better than me, then please go ahead and use your own methods. I'm not listening to me trying to feel my way through, figure out what I'm doing. Button cups down there. Especially around this butterfly. We've come a bit too close with that brown there, I think. Thinking we're just going to be having the white there more than anything. And just the browns creeping in as we get further away. Yeah, about this level I would think we'd start having the actual bones themselves be more of the brown colour, so I'm trying to do a quite light layer of that brown. Make sure there's, trying to make it look as if these bones are curving away, these rib bones here curving away inside that kind of jacket there. as we come further up here, I'm wanting that cream to be more of a kind of highlight colour, but I will maybe try blending in these browns. I have a couple of browns that I think I might be able to use, so I'm going to try bringing those in and then blending with the cream to see how well that works. There may be mistakes happening. Oh, yeah, just bear in mind from the beginning there may be mistakes happening here, as I'm not the best world expert with Prismacolors. And yeah, coming in with a plan would have probably worked a lot better, but yeah, as I did mention, I do have a bigger project that I've been working on, trying to get that film to bring a video out on, hopefully before the end of the month, maybe for Halloween. And that did take quite a long time. Plus yesterday as I went to, is this bones here? I'm guessing it's bones here, looks like bones here, but as I was saying it yesterday, I went out for a walk up to the shops, charity shops, and there's a little trading estate up that way with a B&M, which is where I buy a lot of my art supplies. Anyone in UK knows B&M. I popped in there and I found a shelf unit that I really wanted to try and organise my art supplies onto. So I ended up getting that shelf unit, bringing that home. Spent most of the day yesterday putting together a shelf, sort of a cube shelf unit with like 6 cubes that I can organise all my art supplies onto. So yeah, looking at a little bit neater in the front room. It was quite a productive day, kind of work-wise, getting that shelf unit put up. But yeah, not much colouring was done, because by the time I'd done that, I was very tired, shall we say. Put it a polite way. I was very tired by the time we finished putting that together. My other half had a day off work, so he helped me put that together, and yeah, I'm quite pleased with how nice and neat the front room is looking now, because I do colour in the front room, just on a table in the front room. So finding storage solutions to keep everything nice and tidy is it's a bit of a quest sometimes. Space is kind of that's a premium. Do I have a lighter brown? I have this bronze colour. See if that works as more of a yeah, that's working. If we just use the cream as the highlight colour there. So this one is called a bronze, that is PC 1028, and this one is technically not in the 48 set, but when my friend passed the set on to me, she said one was missing, she replaced it with the bronze. So yeah, just in case anyone's trying to do this with the 48 set, this bronze is actually not in the set. But it's a really lovely colour. It's a kind of a yellow ochre-y, nice colour. And I think I will try and blend these pencils out, whether with the white or with the cream, I'm not entirely sure, but I think we need to, because the paper is fairly rough, so, and I'm going fairly lightly, I'm not pressing super hard. So I do think we need to go in and blend either with the white or with the cream to get these colours blending nicely. Do want more white to come in there around our glow. So I've maybe gone a bit heavy-handed with my shading there, but I think we'll be able to work with it. I think can always bring in the white gel pen, good old faithful white gel pen. Well, that's typical. There'll probably be a little bit of a cut there. I had to go down and actually answer the doorbell. We had a parcel delivered. Typical when I'm trying to make this as unedited as possible. Although I've probably had to edit out a few times already where I've tripped over my words. But I think I was saying that I'm trying to lay down a fairly thin coat of this bronze colour. Is it called bronze? Yep, it's called bronze. So that when I come in with the blending pencil, that will be showing without any of the paper coming through. That is making sense. I hope I'm making sense. I don't want these bits up here to be super obvious because they are way up in the shadows. We're getting further up there. Down here, not so much of the layer of the bronze colour because we are going to be in the lighter area there. I think that's kind of looking how I want it to. I'll try, before I go ahead and do that hand there, I'll try bringing in a colour to be blending that. Should I go with the cream or the white? I think for at least these bits down here, I'll try with the white because we do want those to be looking as if they're glowing, and then maybe change to the cream further up. That might be how we'll make this work. We do need more shading down here, I'm thinking. I'm not entirely sure this is exactly how colour alongs are supposed to go. I still haven't watched one, to be perfectly honest with you. I still haven't done a colour along. There is one or two that I'm hoping to actually go ahead and follow, so I'm not entirely sure of the actual formula, how they're supposed to be actually filmed or edited. But I figure if I just keep everything on the film, and yeah, just so you see how I actually go ahead and colour. You can follow along if you can follow along if you want to. You can follow along, feel free. You can feel free to follow along, and yep, I'll try and let you know if we do actually have a result at the end that is worth following along. Hopefully. It will probably be something along the style of my usual kind of real-time colorings, I would imagine. I don't really want to call them color-alongs. I'd rather stick with real-time coloring because, yeah, as I said, I'm not entirely sure how the real-time coloring is actually supposed to go. Whether I'm actually working to the right formula, if there is one. But I think we're looking okay so far. We do need to bring this hand forward though. That's looking as if that's blending away into the background. We do have this dark umber here. Sorry if I'm knocking the camera. I brought the camera down again to try and make sure that I'm on the camera. I can actually see. Yeah, I can see where I'm actually on the camera there. But the trouble is, it does tend to catch my elbow sometimes. So we're just adding in a few more darker shadows up here. May bring in the gel pen, because we don't actually have white paper here. As I think I mentioned, we do have some kind of off-white paper. Because these are bones, we do want to have some sort of white colour coming through. Although, as I've said, maybe that will be looking a lot lighter once I put in the colour of her hair there. I might just go ahead and do a few little highlights up there though. My usual colouring process of figuring out what works as I go along. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that there isn't a grey, so we're gonna have to improvise there, maybe bring in some of the albictura if worse comes to it. Oh, that seems to be working actually. Yeah, as I said, this is my process. Figure out what works as we go along. Coming in with this dark umber to fill in some of the shadows there, and definitely make more of a shadow around that hand. And you can see there that is making this colour look a lot lighter, having that dark background behind it. That's making that come forward a lot more. And that dark brown is working quite well for that background. That is called dark umber, I think that one is called. So maybe the trick will be to just be a little bit creative with how I use the colours. If we don't have a grey. Grey does tend to flatten colours and make them a little less vibrant though. And on this paper, the colours are already, I think, a little less vibrant than what we could be getting on the white paper, especially with being so soft and textured. Definitely made more for watercolour, I'm thinking, than pencils. But I thought these being Prismacolors, being super soft pencils, these might work, and they seem to be. Keep these shadows a kind of a warm colour. This umber seems to be quite a warm colour, so I'm thinking as we're going for orange and blue, I'm going to try and keep the shadows to a warm colour there, and that does seem to be working to bring that hand out. Let's see what kind of effect can we get with the little bit very, very light white gel pen there. If we put a few little highlights mainly towards the bottom here where that butterfly actually is, I think we can get the right kind of effect that we're going for. This is back to the bronze colour. Now I'm pressing kind of harder and flattening the tooth of the paper a little bit. It is very kind of soft, sort of toothy paper. But I think we need the colours to be more darker. Yeah, not quite so cream, more of this umber, I think, up here. Umber? No, this one is called bronze, right? This one is called bronze. But we do need those colours to be, especially on this hand here, this. Especially on this hand here, I think we need our colours to be darker. I don't want to say more saturated because they are still quite desaturated colours, I'm thinking, with these kind of umber colours. Trying to keep it more towards the browns rather than the bright white. But yeah, we can see there's a difference between this hand we have up here. I'm just adding in the white here for these fingers that we need to be coming forward a little bit there. I do like the way Prismacolors, you can bring in the white there on top of those other colours. That is working quite nicely. The white is opaque, I think, is what I'm trying to say there. I do like the fact that white is opaque, and yeah, I'm already planning to buy a few more of these open stock because it's super good for blending. I have been using the white polychromos to blend, but the white Prisma, yeah, it's super good for blending. If anybody does want to try the white pencil for actual blending, then yeah, that works really well. Okay, I think we're doing okay with our hand there. We might go ahead and do more layers on top, but I think for now we are working with that. And once I've brought in the background here, the black and probably dark blue to give it a nice black hair, I think that will work super well. I might give her, I'm thinking the red makeup, and I might make this flower red here because that looks like it could be a poppy actually. On camera, this one looks as if it could be a poppy, so I'm planning on making that one red, I think, because I've been thinking about it as I've been going along today. Planning on making this one red, her makeup red, and we're going to have these ones here a mixture of kind of the blues or maybe a little bit of orange coming in, darker towards the top but less detail showing there. I think that will work. I plan to bring in a little bit of gold here for a headband, but that will be quite knocked back and not as obvious, not bright shining gold. So I think we're doing okay so far. Now I've got to remember how I did those. I've got to remember how I did those hands there and do this hand here. Again, come in with this dark umber, which is a really nice kind of rich shadow colour out of those pencils that I do have. It's really bringing out the shadows here, I think. Working really well. And the shadows over this side would be starting to get a little bit darker because we are coming further away from our glowing butterfly, which hopefully will look as if he's glowing by the time we finish. I am quite enjoying this actually. Usually, I think most of us are kind of the same though. I'm sticking with the same few colours here. This is the cream, the bronze, and the did I use the light umber? I think I did, to colour these bones. But as I was saying, I think most of us are the same, that when we get a book like this one that's fairly intimidating, we don't really want to colour our favourite picture because then we're too worried about messing it up and not really having something we can be happy with. But I thought, well, yeah, I might as well start with my favourite picture. That would kind of spur me on to actually colour it in, because I've been dying to colour this picture since I bought the book, which is at least a year or so ago. And it's such a shame to have it just sitting on the bookshelf with nothing actually finished. Kind of shameful really, but nothing is actually finished in here. I do have some whips at the front. Originally it was supposed to be just the one work in progress at the front, but my watercolour ended up leaking through several pages. I was a bit too heavy-handed with my water, and it soaked through the binding because the binding is stitched, and it soaked through to about 3 different pages, so I had to go ahead and put the same blue watercolour on about 3 different pages on the front. And yeah, I'm a bit annoyed at myself for actually leaking through the paint there. And yeah, the one main whip I have in the front, the dragon, that I've been doing at the front. I tried using the Castle Arts and the Arteza pencils on part of that, and yeah, they really don't work super well at all with this paper, to be honest with you. It's kind of hard. It's a really thick book, so it's kind of hard to get your pages straight and flat. But yeah, the Arteza and the Castle Arts pencils really don't work super well. This one is the light umber, and Might be able to see a little bit of the scratch on the pencil there. I tried to use the clear nail varnish to go over the colour and the number, and I ended up sticking my pencils together. Yeah, not the neatest painter, even with nail varnish, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I got away with just a little bit of damage to the paint of the actual pencil. So yeah, it's all good. I can work with it. In case you guys are wondering, my pencil is looking a little bit battered already when they're new to me. And this is the bronze. Yeah, this is a lovely colour for these kind of skeleton bones here. Even though it's not meant to be in the set, as I said. Now the number on that one, did I give the number on that one? PC 1028. If I didn't give the number on that one. I'm going to try as much as I can, I think, to actually use the pencils as a main for this without bringing in any collage. Although it is tempting with all this big area of dress here. I think I might end up bringing some Albert Dürer into it. So that is a lot to fill just with the Prismas. I don't want to wear them down super much. They are fairly soft pencils and they do wear down pretty fast. I do love how they blend though. They do blend so nicely. Yeah, oh, I'm liking how this is working. We are looking as if that butterfly is glowing there. The line art does seem to suggest that, or the grayscale, should I say, does seem to suggest that we have a light here. So that is helping a lot, having the grayscale already suggesting that. I'll just blend these with the white and then try and go in with the dark umber to give us some darker shadows. I'm thinking I might work on her hair, so we'll see if we can get this hand to be standing out a little bit better. I think once we do put in the dark blue and black in the background there, we will be having that hand standing out a lot more. And hopefully you'll be able to see what I mean. If you surround it with darker colours, then that will make this look lighter, even though the colour isn't that light really. Oh, yeah, looking good. So we'll go in with the dark umber. Give this some shadows here. We do want some quite dark shadows because we are fairly close to that white source. Again, we'll try and make sure there's a lot of darker areas around the actual finger bones here. As usual, we can always come back and go over any areas we think should be darker. I think we can even go over a little bit the areas that we want to be lighter with these Prismacolors, which is great. I haven't decided on a colour for her kimono or robe that she has there. That will be a decision as I get to it, I think, as most of my decisions do tend to be, unless I'm following a specific colour palette. We do tend to make things up on the fly. See how we work. I'll try blending that brown with the cream a little bit. Oh, creme. Not sure how to pronounce it, but we'll try blending with it anyway, however you say it. This hand would definitely have a few white highlights on it. May even bring in the black for some of those really dark areas, but I think I've said before that I don't particularly like using lots of black for shadows if I don't really need to, because it does tend to make your shadows look really flat. Another interruption for the cat this time. It is typical when I try and film something to be like as unedited as possible, all these interruptions, but I do apologise. And now, but I'm going to leave her hand like that for now, maybe come back to that in a little bit, maybe try and bring in a bit more of the yellow we have going on there, more of the, I think that was that the bronze? I think that could have been the bronze I had going on there. I'll try and bring that in a little bit more, but for now I want to come up here to her hair and see if we can see about getting some nice dark shadows going on here. And as I mentioned, we don't really have any grey to speak of in this set that I can really see. But we do have a silver, so I might try and bring that silver, that is PC949, into her hair. I have the white there, which I don't really want to use super much. It might just be for blending, that one, because I want this part of the picture to be really dark. I've got the indigo blue. I like to give a blue kind of base to any black hair that I do end up colouring, and I have got the actual black. I know I said that I try not to use the black when I am shading shadows and things like that, but I think for black hair, then yeah, you can use black, that is kind of justified. So I'm going to bring in this blue just to shade where her hair is coming here. Give it a nice kind of blue as a base tone. I'm not entirely sure how the silver will work, but I figured it's worth a try. We can give it a little bit of a go just to see what we can make happen. Of course, it may not work at all, in which case I'll probably abandon using the silver as a highlight and go back to just the black and the blue and the white. But for now, I want to give definitely give this blue undertone to her hair to try and contrast with this warm colours we have going on there. Let's try bringing in the black. We can even leave the shading that's actually in the grayscale, we can leave that as a little bit of a highlight maybe. That way we don't need to bring in so much of the white. We can just kind of let the paper do that for us, even though it's technically not white, it's kind of a cream, sort of off-white colour. Definitely bring in the shadows around these fingers here. I don't really want to blend too much with the white because that will soften these lines, and we do want some kind of strand lines going on. Okay, let's try the silver. How well does that work? That's not actually that bad, you know. In place of the white, that's not actually that bad. Maybe it's because the way my lamp is kind of shining onto it, but I think that's working quite well. I'm just going to shade some kind of flat colour with the black just around these hands. We would have a shade come in behind where our hand is there. Our little butterfly is glowing, you'd be casting a shadow up here, and hopefully it's starting to show what I actually meant there. When you bring in a dark colour around this kind of creamy colour here, then it makes it look a lot lighter. Even though it is just a light umber, it's not white or cream there mainly. But bringing in the dark kind of black and blue around it, it's really giving us a nice bit of contrast with both the light and the dark and the warm and the cool colours. We need some more dark around here. It's quite hard actually to get some crisp edges. I picked the wrong colour there. I was going with the blue. We need the black. It's quite hard to get crisp edges for a couple of reasons, because the Prismacolors do seem to wear down really fast. So you end up with a more rounded point a lot quicker than you would with a harder pencil, like maybe Polychromos or Castle Art, something like that. So it's quite hard to get the edges, especially with the paper being pretty toothy and really soft. It's not going to be one for really crisp edges, I don't think. It's, well, the picture itself, more of a sketchy style. Seems to be a lot of the pictures that I do colour a kind of sketchy style. I do love that kind of style. There are a few pictures in this book that are this kind of grayscale, sort of pencil sketch, pencil drawing sort of style. And there's a lot of the actual line art like we have on the opposite page there, the kind of line art. Can we show that? Yeah, that kind of line art style. But even the line art is sketchy looking. It's not super crisp or anything. It's very sketchy looking line art. So I'm going to go ahead here, I think, and finish doing her hair. Bringing in the blue, the black. The blue is Indigo Blue PC 901. And I do have silver, which is PC 949. I'm going to go ahead and fill in her hair here. The flowers, I'm thinking of bringing in some kind of lighter blues to give a kind of a sort of blossom effect with maybe little tiny bits of orange brought in. Although maybe leaving this, the main bulk of this being blue with the red coming in for her makeup, I think would really make that butterfly stand out. That would be very, very similar to the drawing pencil picture that I did colour, where I just had the blue and the orange. We do have this kind of cream sort of ochre colour coming in though, so we are different in that regard. And I have no idea as yet what colour this background is going to be. It might end up being the watercolour pencils. Pretty happy so far with how she's going, I think. I was really worried about messing her up, and I have been really kind of putting this one off for a while. I think that was the reason I was putting it off, is that yeah, you do tend to worry about messing up, and not being able to work with the paper was another kind of worry that I had. I wasn't entirely sure if I could work on this paper with any kind of material apart from watercolor, because yeah, I do love using watercolor, but it's a bit of a hassle to get everything out and get set up for that. Watercolor pencils, I'm thinking maybe I could get to work. I might be able to get that to work quite nicely. I do want to try a little tip that I did have on one of my other videos. Again, I apologise for not going and replying to all of the comments. I don't often get time to actually go on and read through the comments. I try to reply kind of in dribs and drabs when I can. I do really need to go back and see which ones are actually left unreplied to at the moment. And that's all the blue. But as I was saying, I did get a tip that you can lay down watercolor pencils and then go in with a colourless blender, the marker colourless blender, to sort of activate it, dilute it out, and get some quite nice effects. So I do want to try that. Maybe that will be the book to do it in. Although I do need another colourless blender by now. I do love to play with the colourless blender. So I did have two, I think, and both are a bit worse for wear now. I'm hoping you can buy them separately. I don't think it really matters which brand. I don't know. I'm hoping it doesn't matter which brand. So I would like to find out if I can get those separately, like open stock. Yeah, that silver's working quite nicely. I do quite like that actually. I do want to have a lot of the black though, because you will be having this area pretty much in darkness, away from the glow down there. But the grayscale is kind of giving us that sort of basis anyway. Maybe if I bring in the watercolor pencils, then because these pencils are wax based, so maybe the pencils would resist the watercolor and we'd still keep our pencil kind of marks here, the watercolor coming through into the background. That might be something to try. I do tend to mix my pencils quite a lot when I'm colouring. I will use some from one set, some from another, just depending on what colour I want. Yeah, I have certain colours of like most of my sets. Those are the colours that I use most often. So I do tend to mix them. A skin tone set is usually Arteza, the colours that I like to use for my skin tone, with a couple of Castle Arts thrown in. I have certain shades of green that I like to use, certain blues that I like to use together, things like that. So yeah, I do tend to mix my pencils, and I tend not to do one picture mainly in one set of pencils. I used to quite a lot, just for ease of having one set of pencils open at the side of me while I coloured, just for ease of that really, but I haven't done that for a long time, unless it's a small set of pencils and I'm kind of challenging myself at like, these are the 12 or 24 colours that I have, this is what I'm going to use on this picture. I tend to just use the colours that I normally do use, so maybe I need to have a bit of a challenge to use colours I don't normally use. Use up all the pencils that end up left in the box. Maybe that needs to be a challenge that I need to work on. So yeah, hopefully you guys wouldn't mind too much if I did bring in the Albadura or something along those lines for the background, because it is quite a big area. I'm not entirely sure I'll be able to do all of that with just with the Prismacolors. Though I am loving using them, I will say, yeah, I do love the way they work, the way they blend and stuff. My hair is getting a lot more wispier down here. I need to sharpen the black. As I said, these points do wear down super fast. So for doing anything like hair, you will need to be sharpening quite a lot. I'm not entirely sure what this kind of line here is. I think that's part of her robe. But the lines are going super sketchy down here, and we're getting closer to the light here, so maybe we'll bring in a little bit of that white, which is PC938. It's the white, to give a nice shine to that hair. Maybe a bit of my usual white gel pen. Let's try and blend that with the silver maybe. That's not working too badly, blending with the silver rather than bringing in the white. But yeah, this is supposed to be not quite so detailed. You're not supposed to be able to see so much of the detail here over on the side. We are going away from the light, and it's not the focal point. but we're not looking too bad. We do have here, we do have, sorry, I do lose my train of thought. This is why I do need to edit quite a lot. We do have some white highlights on her hand up to about here. So I'm thinking this up to about here with her hair, we can get away with bringing in a few of the white highlights. Something like that. Yeah, not quite so much here. Maybe a tiny little bit there. Just to show that we do have that shine going on from that butterfly. Okay. I do like the way this hand is on camera. I do like the way this hand has kind of ended up showing up really well behind, with that blue behind it. This side of her hair, as we are quite far away from our glowing butterfly that we want to make happen over there. I'm not entirely sure what colour he will be glowing. If he would be glowing kind of a yellowy orange, then there would be a yellow orange kind of reflecting into some of these areas here. That might be quite interesting, come to think of it. But anyway, I don't think that would really be reflecting onto her hair. Maybe a little bit here. We'll see. We'll see what we can come up with in a minute once I go back over there. I finished doing her hair over here. And as I was saying, yeah, so easily distracted. This side of her head is quite far away from our light source. There is not so much hair going on. We do have a lot of that grayscale here, but not as much hair coming here. And it would not be so visible, I don't think. Not so much details, should I say, because it's kind of far away from the light, it's in the shadow, it's not a focal point, so we don't want to be drawing too much attention to it, so we won't be giving it so much detail because, oops, make sure my backing paper is up to the edge there, because one way to draw attention to an area is to give it lots of detail, lots of contrast. Bright colours as well. This is why we've really made saturated colours on that butterfly there. Bright eye-catching colours. My plan is to have the butterfly as the kind of focal point of the picture, which is unusual because usually I would go for the face, try and make her face to be kind of focal point. I'm thinking for this one, as her face would technically be over in the shadows. Once I figure out how to give it actual shadows, I may need to bring in the Albertura of the grey, I'm thinking. But yes, the grey, her face would be in the shadow, rather. Let's get these thoughts out. So, not so much bright colours. The red I want to keep pretty subdued if I can. I want to bring in some red for her eyes and her lips. These flowers in her hair, they would be not quite as detailed either because they would be up in the shadows, but we do want to bring in a few little hints of colour, mainly the blue, and maybe bring in some of this kind of ochre-y colour maybe. Keeping the orange for the actual butterfly. Up here for the hair that's actually on her head here, where, well, it's all on her head, but hopefully you know what I mean. On the actual main body of her hair here, I'm not being as fussy with my strand lines. We just want to have some sort of impression that she's got some hair kind of style going on here. It's rolled up in these kind of bun type things. And again, far away from the focal point, so we don't want to be giving super amounts of detail. Just a kind of indication that there is a hairstyle there, and we'll be good, I think. We'll possibly be bringing in a few little bits of green here and there, but I want to keep most of the colours fairly desaturated, with that butterfly being a super strong kind of orange colour. Oops, coming over her face there. We may need to bring in some sort of a kind of highlight around the edges here. We do want her hair and her head to be standing away from the background. However, I do decide to do the background. Still haven't figured that out. But if we keep a little bit of white highlight there, which is actually turning into a very light blue highlight, because we're going on top of the blue there, which is all good. We don't really want any stark white. We don't really want any of the white highlights. I like the way that's making the blue highlights though. Quite like that. Probably because I haven't really put any other colours here yet. It's just blue. So, ooh, I like that. Well, it's giving it some highlights, but not super strong ones. I can work with that, I think. So coming in with the black again, there's going to be less kind of detail showing, so less kind of being able to see the strand lines. Again, I struggle how to put things into words sometimes. I tend to think in pictures, which makes it hard to put things into words sometimes. I have to stop and try and translate what I actually mean. But yeah, there's going to be more solid kind of areas of colour, less strand lines as we get further away from the actual source of light. We want to be fairly dark with this here, fairly solid areas of colour, but we do still want to be able to see that we do have the bun shape going on with this kind of swirl here. So maybe more of the dark colour in there. We go a little bit lighter in the dark black there. Can we bring in that silver? How would that look? Not too bad. Getting a grey would be handy. We're working with what we have. I think we're doing pretty well. Still trying to keep that shape visible without those highlights being super visible. Maybe we should bring the black. Maybe we should bring the blue. Bring the blue. How are we looking there? Maybe bring the white in here. A bit of highlight there. Which one is this? This one's the black. I've picked up the black. That's good. Maybe quite a few bits where I do stop talking. I am trying to figure things out as I go here, and yeah, That needs the brain power, so if I do kind of drift off and stop talking, I do apologise for that. I'll try maybe add some music or cut out the bits where I do go super long without talking. I'm sure most of you, if you are watching this, you're used to my kind of style by now. Yeah, there are bits where I do kind of wander off, get lost in trying to figure things out. Which for me is a good thing. I'm not sure about you guys, whether that's annoying or I don't really know, but yeah, I do love it when I really focus on something, get really caught up in it, and most of the time don't realise what time it is. I do love those days when I do have the chance, the ability to actually do that. Oops, almost off camera. I forgot. I remembered to check. However, I remembered. Just darkening these edges. As always, we can go back and add more layers if we're not happy with how dark things are going. Hopefully this I'll be able to film as one long kind of colour along. It might be a very long one, like maybe even 3-4 hours, but I'm really not looking at splitting it into parts if I can really help it. Actually, I could gather opinion while I'm actually on that subject. Would you guys rather I do 3 or 4 parts of maybe an hour each for my kind of colour along style? This real-time colouring is my my version of colour alongs. So would you guys rather that I did 3 or 4 parts of like an hour each maybe, or try and keep it to 1 part, even if it does run on fairly long? That does require kind of more time to edit, really. It just takes so long to upload up to YouTube. Once you go over maybe say an hour, I think an hour and close to 2 hours, I think. I've kind of done a few of those close to 2 hours lately. And they do take quite a long time to actually download from the editing software and then upload onto YouTube. And they do take a heck of a lot of editing. My skills at editing are not the best. I have said that, yeah, and I will continue to say that. My skills at editing are not the best. So it does take me some sweet time to get stuff up, especially the longer videos. Not really my favourite part. I'll admit that the editing is not my favourite part. The actual filming, I don't mind filming at all. But I'm so not technically minded. Me and technology, we're really not good friends at all. Yeah, it does take me a while sometimes to figure some things out. I have to Google stuff like that, and if there's a problem with the actual footage, some of the time I have no clue how to fix it. It takes me ages to Google, find out how to fix a specific problem, get something out that's actually of decent quality. Sort of okay on her head there, I'm thinking. Okay, yep, trying to stay away from the white gel pen highlights, but I've come in with the white pencil there, and I think that's working really well. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that so far. So I'll carry on with that, kind of avoiding the more complicated bits at the moment, but I do love to colour skin and hair, and it will give me a chance to try and figure out how to do a face there. I do want to keep that kind of grey, but without using an actual grey. We might have to do some mixing with the pencils and then blending them with the white on top. I think we can possibly get some sort of semblance of grey going on. Maybe some off-camera experimenting will be in order. Gonna have a lot more of the heavier shadows here. I'm gonna bring in the silver here, maybe the white on top as well. I'm kind of pushing these pencils to their limits here. Trying to figure out how they actually work with my style. Definitely, yeah, hair, colouring hair with the Prismacolor pencils, they will need a lot of sharpening because they don't keep that really fine point. Let's try and bring in those light blue highlights that the white is giving us here. Maybe not going as dark with this hair as I probably should be. But I am liking these kind of blue highlights that the white is giving when we use on top of that indigo colour. That's working really well. Let's put a little bit more of that indigo blue in there. Yeah, it's looking about the same as the other side, I think. Might need a few bits of that silver. So we have the hair showing, but we've got these strand lines going on, some sort of semblance or shape to it. With the dark here on this kind of edge, and then lighter areas where her head is kind of curving out here, which is working really well. Still keeping with those same colours. So I think it's indigo blue, the black, this is silver. I also have the white, but I'm trying not to use it super much, as we do want her hair to be fairly dark. And there we go, I think we're looking okay. Now to do this part here, before we move on to her face, to try and figure out how we're going to do her kimono or robe. I'm not sure if it is a kimono or a robe, so if anybody is an expert on that, please don't be pulling me up in the comments. I really don't know, and I think it's probably easiest just to call it a kimono. It looks along those lines, even though it hasn't got the belt down the middle, so maybe it's more of a robe. That's kind of beside the point. Her clothes, shall we just say her clothes? I'm not entirely sure how to do her clothes. It is a very big area. Maybe I'll bring in the watercolours again, although the watercolour colours are fairly bright, and I don't really want super bright colours, although if I stick to brown maybe and black, and then we can shade on top once we've actually laid down our kind of background there. Although, to be perfectly honest, I really don't know how the watercolour pencils would behave with this paper. It is very suited to watercolour. We do get a lot of the watercolour effects, the nice kind of blobby effects that I like. We do get a lot of those. I have been told what they're actually called. They do have specific names, but blobby effects. I'm sure you all know what I'm actually getting at there, where the colours sort of just sort of mix into each other without actually mixing the colours. I do love those kind of effects. And they do happen really, really readily on this paper. It's pencils that don't work super well. Although these Prismacolors, they do seem to be working a lot better than the Arteza or the Castle Art. If anybody is looking for pencils to actually use on this paper, then yeah, Prismacolors are your way to go. Castle Arts and Arteza do work, but not as well, I'm thinking, from the way that I've experienced it anyways. I do have that whip in the front where I did use the Castle Arts on the Arteza for a kind of lotus flower sort of thing, and they didn't work super well, but maybe that's just because I don't have the practice of using them on this paper. I really don't know. But using them the way I would normally use pencils, that really wasn't getting me brilliant results, so that's probably why that page has stayed as a whip for quite a while. I think we're not... pencil shaving tray. This side of her head is not going as dark as I'm really wanting it to. We do have an ear there, to try and remember to colour that. I wonder if I went really lightly with the black, I might be able to blend that out into grey. And then add a little bit of blue as the tones for her face, maybe. That's also kind of reminiscent of another picture that I've done this month with the blue skin tones, but in this case it's probably more out of necessity than kind of design. So I'm thinking we're going to have to lean more towards the blue unless I can. Once I can blend out this black into a grey kind of tone, I don't see why I wouldn't be able to, but you never know. Yeah, I really need to lean more heavily into the black on this side, I think. This one's the black, yeah, it's very, very similar to that really dark blue, but I really need to lean more into it and do more of the actual solid colour shading. I think I did some of that on the other side. I'm having to be pretty conscious of how long this is taking, because my phone didn't get fully charged, unfortunately, so I'm just hoping I can get this finished in time before my battery runs out. Otherwise we'll be going for part 2, which I really, really don't want to do. Unless you guys say that that is the way you would prefer me to do it. I don't think it is. I don't think it is the way that people would prefer, because views tend to drop off a lot. Quite a few people tend to watch the first part of any of my sort of real-time colorings, and the next part has less, So going from that, I'm guessing people would rather that I just did one part so I could get it all done and be over with, unless we're talking a really complicated image. This one not as complicated. I'm hoping we can get this one finished in the one day. think these flyaway bits of hair here are something that we'll probably have to deal with once the background is actually in. Most of it is done there though, which has surprised me because I tend to get a little bit distracted and move on to do another part of the picture. And then come back and realise I can't remember how I did stuff. It's usually the way I work. Most of my time is spent trying to figure out and trying to remember what I actually did. But yeah, once I come in with the background, hopefully this won't be so noticeable anyway. Because I'm planning on having a fairly dark background over there. I don't think we'd have any white highlights. I did say that I was going to come in with this bronze colour and add some more yellow to this hand. So I'll do that while I'm thinking about it before I get distracted again. Yeah, we need a bit more of that yellow, I think. Did I not blend with the cream? I think I might have blended with the cream. Or creme. For those ones there. Yeah, that's looking more like that hand over there now. Okay, so we're moving on to the more difficult bits now. After we've been colouring for about an hour or so already. Okay, for the makeup on her face, I have got here the Crimson Red, PC924. And I'm thinking for her lips, we're going to have those pretty stark red, but we do want to darken that down. As I've said, we don't want her face to be super white. We do want it to be more grey than anything, and a little bit of a red around her eyes. I think tends to happen in the kind of Japanese sort of makeup, sort of geisha style. I'm no expert again. I'm no expert in this at all. Just from what I've seen online, I do want to have some sort of kind of hint of that. That's looking pretty cool. And I'm thinking, as my black is kind of point is wearing off slightly somewhat there now, so I'm thinking maybe if I use the black very lightly, this is the plan, around the edges of her face here, and then go over that with the white pencil. We might be able to make this into some sort of a grey, because I don't want her face to be super bright white. I want it to look white, which hopefully it will, with the really dark black around the framing her face there with her hair. Her face will still look as if it's supposed to be white, even though it's actually not, in theory. My very limited knowledge of colour theory here is telling me that that should work. I'm not entirely sure how a face would look like being lit from this kind of angle. Maybe we should give both of her eye sockets a little bit of shading there. Something along those lines. That's kind of looking okay. Make her ears the same kind of colour. Well, technically there would be some sort of skin colour going on there. There we go. And there's a moment of truth. I'll just make sure I clean off this white. Which wasn't a bit of other colour on there. And let's see if we can blend this black into some sort of grey. It's blending into a blue grey. Interesting. That red is smudged a little bit. I can work with it. Thinking maybe I missed a little bit of shading there with the black. Maybe we need to go over the top of that a little bit again. Just looking a bit too skeletal with the face there. There we go. Some of the white around the edge of her face. There's a bit of a highlight around the edge of the jawline that I do like to do. But even though I did clean the white pencil, so this is the black that's blending out into this very kind of bluey grey, which is working really quite nicely with what I want my colours to be doing. So yeah, that's a bonus, and something I wasn't even sure whether it would work or not, so not 100% sure on that. Shadow under her nose there, but yeah, her face for once is not going to be the focus of the colouring, so I think we're being lit from underneath, so we would have light on the chin possibly, and then light on these sort of cheek kind of areas. Everything else would be fairly dark. So I'm thinking most of her forehead would actually be dark. There he is. Not entirely sure on this. I probably should have looked it up before I started, but I'm guessing most of her forehead would be dark as we're coming up into the darkest areas of the picture anyway. Look kind of right. I'm just trying to blend out those pencil marks there. Possibly not quite as neat as I would have wanted to there. I was counting on the white being blender rather than having some nice neat pencil strokes, but maybe if we're very gentle with our colour we can bring in a little bit of extra shading as we get further towards the top of her face there. A little bit of extra colour there for her eyes and eyelashes. Something like that. Don't know how well that would blend out again on top of that blending we've already done. Not sure our chance trying to give any blushy cheeks. I don't really want to bring in any pink or any of that kind of colour. Maybe a bit of definition to those eyebrows there. How will that blend? Let's see, does that give us a slightly darker colour? Maybe if I just blend very lightly. That'll give us a slightly darker grey. Yep, I just want to try and blend out those pencil strokes again, not being as neat as I could possibly be with those pencil strokes, but at least I'm trying to keep them all going in the same sort of direction. And at the top of her head there as well, you want the most shadow to be. Very. Again, I'm not 100% sure this is where the shadows actually would go if the face was lit from below, but I'm just going on the theory that the parts, the bony parts of the face, shall we say, where the skull is closest to the skin, that is where the light would be hitting. So the chin, these kind of cheekbone areas, and the middle of the forehead. And your nose is further forward than the rest of your face, so that would probably be getting a bit of light. All complete guesswork, kind of a educated guess kind of style here. I'm not sure if we have any blues that might actually work there into the shadow. Peacock blue. Yeah, that's kind of working. This one is Peacock Blue PC1027. And I'm going very, very lightly over those shadow areas just to bring a bit of colour into it. Because, yeah, black does tend to flatten out your shadows if you do use the black, although in this case, out of necessity, but if we can bring in a little bit of extra colour, then that's a bonus. Nice. I think that's working. Just a little bit more blending with the white there. We're not going to get completely smooth colours, I don't think, because the texture of the paper is affecting it a lot. And the line art, or rather the grayscale underneath, is kind of rough. It looks as if it's been drawn on watercolour paper, put it that way, so the line art underneath is not smooth. That probably makes more sense. I don't really want to bring in brighter. Oh, that works a lot better. Yeah. This one is a Tuscan Red Rouge Toscan PC937. Just darken up a few little bits of the red we've got going on their face. That's working quite nicely. I'm quite liking that. Okay, that's one kind of scary bit done. I was definitely not sure how that would actually work. Just adding the very last little bits of the black shading there. Redefining these strands of hair that come down over her face, because I don't really want to bring in the white gel pen because we're quite far away from the actual light source up here. And even though the colours are not going quite as dark as I like, I think we're giving the effect that we have got that light source down here. With a bit of luck, we would have a bit of shading underneath her face. We're moving down now. So I'm keeping with the black. So her face is a pretty important part of the actual image, so let's go in with that, just to be a bit of contrast between the black and the white there. some leaves there. I think we'll be bringing in some green. It's getting to the point. I think it usually gets to the point, doesn't it? We're like, yeah, I like how it's going. I'm not entirely sure whether to do any more and risk messing it up. I really like how she's going, but I don't want to turn her into a work in progress. So we're going to push through with this. Going to pull out a few blues. We can get a kind of subdued blue, maybe. So we do want some kind of greyish blues going on in these shadows with the flowers. So it's just jump in. It's usually the way to go. And I'm not being too fussy here, picking out individual flowers or anything like that. Just trying to give the impression that we do have flowers there. That one could be another poppy, I'm thinking, so I'll put some blue behind it. These flowers down here, these would be a bit more kind of defined. That blue would be brighter. These flowers here, I think maybe I'll make those into white flowers. We're pretty close to the glow there, so those can be white flowers. Not much of a clue how I'm going to be doing most of this. That one was actually light cerulean blue, is PC 904. I am sorry, I do tend to get carried away and not mention what I'm actually doing here. We do want a few kind of areas of that blue. But as we get further towards the top here, we're going to be losing definition of these flowers because we're going into the dark. I'm just going to have some suggestions of blue going on up there, in theory. Might need to bring in some bits of green. Kind of desaturated dark green. Do we have one of those? Let's try this one. This one is just called dark green, PC 908. Just for a few little bits of blobs of green. Trying to be a little bit random. Even though there is line up there, I'm just trying to put in a few little blobs of green to give the impression there's leaves and greenery and stuff going on here. We do have some actual leaves, which I will give probably some brighter colours too, because we do want these to be we want them to be coming out fairly far forward, but I don't want to bring in the white really on those ones up there. These ones here will probably have a little bit of white highlight. This one is called Olive Green, PC 911. Just making sure those colours are fairly saturated so we can see those coming forward. These ones here down by the light will probably have the white highlights. Travel that in, just so I know that I'm supposed to be putting them there. It does make more sense to go at the end and white highlight everything that you want to have white highlights. Sorry for the neighbours, you probably hear them with their car doors yet again. Let's try and go behind those with the dark brown, maybe. A little bit of shadow. Or maybe the, what was it called? Dark umber. Here we are, dark umber. It's quite a good shadow colour on these kind of umber ochre colours. Okay, I've got a bit of a foundation, so I know what I'm doing here. These poppies are going to be red, so I might pop those in, as I actually know what I'm about with those. I know what I want. So I want to use the same kind of reds we used for her makeup. I think that was this Crimson Red PC924, and that one is Rouge Toscan Red PC937. So I want this poppy to be fairly saturated. Going in with the Tuscan Red first. I want the colours to stand out. The middle, kind of centre seed pod kind of thing of a poppy would be green. And these little seeds would be black, which I'm going to probably do with a black pencil, and then bring in a few little white highlights to show that those are kind of shiny. Oops. We have this poppy here. We have a few poppies actually. I've just spotted another one. There, nestled away underneath. This one here we want to be the brightest, so I'll bring in this scarlet red. I'll try blending that with the white maybe, especially around the edges, because poppies are, their petals kind of, I don't want to say transparent, they're not exactly transparent, but you can see through them a little bit. Maybe translucent is the word, I don't know. They're fairly fragile anyway. So I'll try blending out that red with the white to hopefully maybe give that kind of impression that the petals are a little bit see-through maybe. This one, I'm not going to be going so crazy with the detail, because that one's a little bit further away, and this one's the one that we want to be looking as if it's in the front. Maybe bringing more of the Tuscan red for that one. I'm not sure if that's another poppy behind there, but we'll do a little bit of red anyway. And we want to make this fairly dark around here as well, because we do have that hand coming in that we want to have a lot of dark kind of areas behind it. This is another poppy here. Again, fairly close to the light source there. So I'll try going in and blending those with the white. Yeah, I think I'm going to go through quite a few of these whites. I must have sharpened it at least 3 times here. But it is super good at blending. Oops. It's going slightly pinker than I would maybe want. Yeah, those are looking a little bit pinker than I would maybe want. I could maybe go over the top with the red again. You can always add more layers, I keep telling myself. And you guys, I keep telling everybody, you can always add more layers. If we want the petals to be more defined around these edges, we can bring in shadows behind it. That's looking slightly better. I'm not sure that's entirely a poppy red, but probably the best so we can do with what we have here. Okay, coming in with the black again, and black is actually the colour the poppy seeds are, so we can go ahead and use that, I think. Although I probably should have done the green in the middle there first. Oh well, you live and learn. We can bring in the black a little bit for these petals to define those a little bit, maybe. And they'll be underneath there. I have a lot more shadow coming in. I do want to define these fingers, so I do want to have shadow behind them, if I can. Bringing that darker red around where the fingers are, because we are going further away from the light source there anyway. So that's the Tuscan red. The greens. Which greens was I using? The dark green and the olive green, I think. Okay, there might be some neighbours' cars in the background there. I do apologise. So that's the dark green, and this is the olive green. Yeah. I do want those colours to be fairly obvious. Oh, and this little one here, which I'm guessing is supposed to be poppy. I'm not entirely sure there. But if it wasn't a poppy, it is now. I'll pop in some black seeds and we'll call it a poppy, even if it isn't. I think they are. I think they're supposed to be poppies. And yeah, these colours not coming out as saturated as maybe we would want them to because of the paper. Both the colour and the texture, I think, is not really helping with the bringing those poppies out there. Colours do tend to be a lot more subdued. I did point out, I think, that yeah, it does tend to dull your colours down, both having the off-white paper and having that texture going on there, but I think it's good enough for what we want, so make sure we've got the white pen working. A few dots to those poppy seeds. Good. So we are quite close to the butterfly there. Pop in a few little white highlights. These flowers are going to be white, so I'm going to be going around that. Around those with the white gel pen, I think. Okay. Let's see. Now we're going to work on darkening most of the areas here, making sure those flowers stand out. And generally making it up as we go along here. I think we do have some flowers there. I was using this blue, this light cerulean blue, I think. kind of a periwinkle sort of colour. I do want to bring in a darker blue. Just put these greens down. I will undoubtedly be picking those up again a little bit later on, but a darker blue, maybe the indigo blue that I was using for the hair here, we can bring in, because these blues are not going to be as kind of obvious as a little bit further down. We do want some kind of vague petal flowers shapes going on. Magic flower there. Kind of a vague flower shape. Let's bring in that dark brown. Dark umber. Give a little bit of shadow behind that flower. Clean off the white. Give us something kind of flower looking. Blur this shading in the background a little bit. Going to be a lot of making it up as we go along here. This is a black. We do have some more kind of flowers there. There we go. Kind of defined a little bit of a centre there. Looks more like a flower. Yeah, we can live with that. This is a light umber. Over the shading on these rib bones a little bit. Make sure we define where the flowers start coming. I think I'm kind of liking how it's going so far. It's kind of how I envisioned it. I really do want to bring in a few shadows here. This is the black. Trying to keep most things looking pretty vague up here in the kind of shadowy areas, because we are in the shadows pretty much. So light umber. We do have a little bit of definition to these bones here, but it's kind of a bit hard to make out, so again, kind of making it up. I think we have a kind of a line down the middle there, and then the bones shadier on that side. Should we bring in that cream? Let's bring in the cream. Yeah, we'll definitely have a case of really concentrating here to try and figure out how things are supposed to go. So apologies if I don't talk too much, because I'm not entirely sure what exactly is happening here. The line art itself is fairly vague, I think. There we go, at least we have that hand looking as if it's standing out. They are well shaded there. We have this hand standing out. That's the main point. You want to be able to see those hands. Have some sort of an impression of flowers. This is sort of black. Let's bring in that light umber. So over here we have shadow, so we want to bring in some of that indigo blue maybe. That flower kind of disappearing into the darkness there. Not entirely sure what's meant to be leaves, what's meant to be flowers. I'm just working my way down, just trying to define things as I go down, so we look as if we've got some sort of flower, vague shapes going on. Trying to blend the bones, these rib bones here into the dark that we have happening towards the top. Will not be much definition at all here for those flowers either. So that is the darkest blue, the indigo blue. The colours I'm using at the moment I have in my hand. We have indigo blue, PC901. We have the light umber, PC941. We have the white, we have the black. This dark umber, PC947. I've got the cream and the periwinkle blue. And that's what I'm using to try and define these kind of flower areas as we're coming further down into the light here. They will start getting a little bit more sort of defined. These ones I wanted to be, were those ones I wanted to be white? I think I want them to be white, but not quite as well defined as these here. So I'll just make sure those look as if they're a little bit lighter than the ones around it. Yeah, that's working. Maybe a little bit of the white there. Are there supposed to be poppies under there? I can't remember. We could have the most petals coming up over the top of that poppy there. A little bit of the indigo blue. Yes, maybe wouldn't be quite as defined. We're behind the poppy there. Light umber. Light would be mainly over this side, the actual picture, because our butterfly is over on this side. But we can adjust. We do need to have these rib bones look as if they are kind of bending around because ribs are curved. And these ones here would not have so much definition, I don't think. So light umber, a little bit of white. Does that look about right? Yeah, I think that looks about right. Yeah, we don't want that to look super defined. We don't need it to look super defined. We have a couple of focal points there. We have the butterfly, I want to be the main focal point. That's going to look as if he's glowing. We have the poppies, which are standing out because of that red colour. And we do have her face as kind of a, maybe a tertiary sort of, the third place we want people to be looking. It's actually her face, so we have brought out that red colour into our makeup. And these flowers we want to be a little bit more defined because we are getting close to the light source there, but we want to have some fairly dark shadows, again because of that light source. But, not sure if that's leaf or flower or what there. So this is starting to be about the place where the white highlights could possibly start coming in on these flowers, I think. We do have white highlights on her hand there, but that is further forward, so I don't really want to bring in these the highlights inside. the rib cage there, super far up. Maybe something like that. These leaves are coming up out over her kimono, so I'm gonna use those. Oh, we're gonna give those a little bit of a highlight actually. Yep, liking it. Okay, let's add some sort of maybe we need some leaf colours there. Again, that'll be the dark green and the olive green. I don't really have any leaves coming here. These are supposed to be flowers probably, but we'll add in a couple of little leaves there. Anyway, we think we can stand to have some leaves. I think I'll add them in. Right. A little bit of the olive green. So I need to sharpen that one. And we're defining these petals with the, this one is the indigo blue. We would have quite a bit of shadow here. We are very near the light source, so these flowers would be casting quite dark shadows behind them. We would probably see the petals and stuff defined a lot more in there. And I'll maybe bring in a little bit of the black to show that we do have fairly dark shadows under here. A bit white for blending. Can't remember if I did that. There we go. We don't need to be particularly detailed with those flowers in there. It's basically just a lots of little flowers all clumped together, so we're going to have kind of a bit of a mess of flowers, to put it that way. It's hard to tell little definitions and stuff, all the separate flowers, because everything is so packed in. That's the way I'm thinking anyways. And if this butterfly is glowing, I'm going to have a lot of the white here, so I'll bring that in and just kind of blend things. And I did say I would bring in a bit of yellow, didn't I, just to see how that would work. So let me see, we have canary yellow. Let's see if that actually works. So I'll add in a little bit of that canary yellow. Is it called canary yellow? Yeah, that is called canary yellow. Only lightest areas here, maybe. Blend it with the white. Go in with a white gel pen and sort out all these little bits of flowers here. Make it look as if we've got something going on there with flower petals of some description. Just trying to keep some kind of flower shapes going in there. Just will hopefully look like flowers from a distance. The line art is pretty sort of mushy anyway, to be honest. It's very sketchy, so it's hard to see what is supposed to be going on here. And down here, right next to the butterfly, we're going to be really, really light. Really bright, so a little touch of colour there. Still going to need that rib curving back there, so I'll add a little bit of this light umber. Put some on the top of that rib there, just so I can bring in the white gel pen on top of it and have that show up as a highlight. There we go. I'm going to blend this a little bit with the white as well. Make sure we've got some really dark shadows with the indigo blue and the black. Because the contrast between that really bright white gel pen and the black in the background there, that will also draw attention to our butterfly that we want to be the focal point. And he's got some antennae there that are disappearing into the picture. Let's bring those back for him. There we go. There's our butterfly. That's looking, yeah, I'm liking how we're going here. I still haven't quite decided. This is the dark umber. I still haven't quite decided how we're going to cope with this sort of robe or dress, kimono. Not entirely sure there. Do we have here, this is the bones, I think we decided, right? Kind of hard to see. It is a mythical creature anyway, I think. It's supposed to be possibly a god or goddess or a spirit of some sort, so I don't suppose human anatomy matters super much. Well, it doesn't in my picture anyway. Light umber. Let's do these leaves here. Let's try and work on both sides. Do these flowers. We don't have any leaves there, do we? That's a leaf, I think. It's a dark green and olive green. That's what they're actually called, dark green and olive green. A few little splashes of the green just to show there are leaves there somewhere. And the packed in mass of flowers there. It might be fun to show you guys how well watercolour actually works on this paper, so I might bring in the watercolour for the background thinking about it. Probably won't go for my usual galaxy, and I'm not entirely sure that would fit. So I wanted these flowers to be white. I'm going to bring in the white. This is the indigo blue. We want those to be white, we want them to look light, so we do want to have a lot of shadow behind them. So it's again with the indigo blue, thinking that yeah, maybe we need to define that kind of shadow there a little bit more. And the black. Make sure those flowers there are standing out as being white against the rest of this sort of darkness here. I do want things getting a little bit dark over towards that side though. Let's maybe bring in that dark umber shade over the top of those blue flowers. Rock them back a bit. There we go, let's kind of neutralise that blue a little bit. With the warm umber going over the top of the cool blue there. Got a bit of a grey going on. These ones we do want to be obviously white. Oh, we do have some leaves there. Need to bring in the olive green. And a little stem leaves. Looking at the clock, this might have been cut into 2 parts by now. We're at the about 2.5 hour mark now. These petals down here do have a lot of the shading on them. The actual grayscale. A lot of it is leaves, I think. Kind of hard to tell because the style of the drawing kind of sketchy. And a petal. Could be a petal there, I think. And here. I'm trying to think of how I could possibly do her robe and have that fit in with my colour scheme and look good. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. I'm hoping something comes to me before the end of the picture, before I even get that far. Quite close to the light source here, so these flowers would possibly have a lot of the white highlights to them. And some fairly dark shadows behind them. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here with the bones, to be honest. It's kind of hard to see. I have no idea. We're just going to make it look something like something could be happening in there. Blend it out, make it a little bit more blurry. Something's happening there, we're not entirely sure what, because it's not the focal point of the picture, so we totally aren't that interested, right? And yeah, I really need to figure out what to do with the robe. It is kind of a bit of a conundrum. I was thinking maybe to do a kind of a yellow ochre sort of colour, blending down into brown and maybe a dark kind of black down the bottom, so we could show us that that butterfly is glowing there. That would be the watercolours. Just blending all this out, make it kind of blurry looking. I'm not entirely sure what is happening here, these sketchy leaves and flowers and stuff. What we could do is just make sure we have quite dark shadows behind here. And then come in with the white gel pen and just outline all these petals. Maybe we'll give some black stamens here as well. Even though that's not a poppy, I'll give some kind of black dots there. They don't have to be realistic flowers, of course they don't. Yeah, we're starting to get the portion of the video where I go quiet, where I'm trying to figure things out. I think we've had a couple of portions of that already. Just make sure we have some dark kind of shadow behind there. I am liking where it's going so far. Not entirely sure how to do the rest, but then I wasn't entirely sure how to do this kind of flowery bits inside the ribs here, so that's worked out super well. We are also getting on in the time, so people will be coming back from work and school soon, so I'm going to have to figure out something. We didn't have any white highlights there. I think we need some because that poppy's got some. Do something like that. Tidy up a few of these edges. This flower will definitely have some sort of highlights. And as I was saying, I think what I might do here is just define those petals with the white gel pen. Keep it quite sketchy. Define some sort of petals there. Kind of hand-drawn sort of painted look. And that way we don't have to worry too much about details. It looks like flowers, right? To me it looks like flowers. No, it does look like flowers, it looks fine to me. Leaves. That's a petal there. That is coming over the top of our robe though, so once we figured out how to do our robe, we'll figure out how to do that. We need to give a little bit more definition to these bones here, make it look as if something's going on, even if it's just vaguely, like kind of sketchy, like I've done these flowers here, because the drawing itself, as I've said, the drawing itself is pretty sketchy. Maybe we'll try blending it with the cream. Look like it's bending down behind behind her robe there. Dark brown. Put these bits into the shadow there a little bit. white gel pen. Maybe to show there is something there. Maybe bring in that bronze colour. That was giving me a nice creamy colour for the kind of skeleton parts of this lady. I don't want to overwork it too much because the paper is fairly soft, and I don't want to wreck the tooth of it. Look as if something could be going on there. Maybe if we the sentence trails off. Sometimes I will do that, start a sentence and then get distracted. It kind of looks as if something could be going on there, I think. So far so good. Okay, so we've kind of established there that most of our flowers are the actual kind of periwinkle blue. Cerulean blue light, I think it's called. So I think I'll go ahead, the rest of the flowers, maybe do a couple of little white ones like these ones here. But the main, I think, bulk of the flowers, we will keep as cerulean blue. Maybe come in and do a few little black stamens into the middle. We're going to need some leaves as well. Oh, it's looking really good so far. I'm really, really quite happy with how she's looking so far. But how to do that robe is really kind of stumping me at the moment. Maybe we could keep our colours fairly saturated towards the top. Have everything blend off into a more kind of watercolory sort of effect coming down here. Just keep really thin paint with not much kind of definition to it. Concentrate mainly on her face, giving that bit of a background up there. On the camera. Yeah, I think that's what we need to be doing. We have a lot of green up here. But I don't want these flowers to be super defined. We're going to be in the dark. And I want the background to be fairly dark with the browns. Maybe a little bit of gold ink spattered around. That's not something like it would look good. So yeah, that was the light cerulean blue. I'm not sure if these are meant to be flowers or leaves up here, but we'll bring in the blue anyway. And then a lot of the green, and some. We could bring in some gold gel pen. We could even bring in some stick-on crystals. Although, yeah, entirely optional. I'm trying to stick mainly to pencils, so that you guys can follow along if you feel that's what you want to do. You can follow along. These are my colours. Although feel free to just take the idea and run with it. Come up with your own little adaptations. Yeah, not so much white up here. Trying to blend those colours with the white, but not leave any actual white highlights like the white gel pen or anything like that. Yeah, I'm thinking there might be a lot of gold gel pen dots, I think, yeah. and dark green and olive green for the leaves. I've kept that the same all the way through, just keep things simple. Gold, gold, gold. This will be a leaf. That'll be a leaf. Maybe. It is now. Leaves, that's a leaf. It's a bit hard to tell. This will be gold. I'm planning to do all these little kind of colour cues on the end. Do those with a gold gel pen. I think there's a flower there I've actually missed. Nobody will know. Okay. Little leaves and bits at the top. I don't think we want too much detail here because again we are coming quite far away from our glow there. We want the butterfly to be the glow. So I'm just gonna blend that a little bit. So it looks like there is some kind of leafy sort of detail going on up there, but without much definition, because the further away we get from the light source we're going to be darker and less detail happening there. That's kind of how we want that, and just so we can do this and not have it dry, so we don't put our hands in it, or I don't put my hands in it as I am very wont to do. I'm going to come in with the gel pen. This is just the Uniball Signo, the broad gold gel pen. And I'm going to do these details of her hair kind of accessory. And bring in the gold here. Mainly because I can't quite tell what is going on here. I think that's supposed to be a leaf, but yeah. Yeah, I'm going to add this gold, mainly because I can't tell what is supposed to be going on. And I want it to look as if there is something going on, so a little bit of gold there. And once that's dry, we can go in and shade it with the dark brown, which is what I usually do whenever I colour anything gold. Because we do want that to be... we want it to be fairly dark. There's probably a leaf there. It's supposed to be gold, but nah. It's not entirely obvious what is supposed to be going on, so I think we can feel free to take some creative license here. Just very lightly going in with the light blue, the cerulean blue light there, to make sure there is no white bits of the paper. And we can take the black, that's the indigo blue. We can take black and darken a few areas as well. Again, just to make it look as if there is something going on up here, something kind of floral. You don't have to be able to tell exactly, especially if it's going to be in the shadows. You do lose a lot of detail when areas are in the shadows, so yeah, we're going to lose a lot of this detail here anyway, because we want it to look as if it is over in the shadow. Once we've put in a little bit of the once we've put in the background and tried to keep that fairly dark, I think we're going to be looking all right. Go. I think that's looking as if something is going on up there, and I'm thinking we do need to bring in the kind of browny sort of umber colours into the background to balance out a little bit. All this brown we've got going on here, I think we do need to bring that into the background. So, oh, we do have a flower there. Not that much of that would be visible. And I'm not entirely sure what this kind of line art or shading in the background is supposed to be. So I might just do my own thing, bring in the watercolour, let all that blob together and give us a bit of a sort of texture. Nice watercolour happening up in the background there. I don't really want to bring in the orange. I want to keep it fairly kind of raw umber, burnt umber sort of colours. I don't want to go too far into the orange sort of shades. And I will be fairly happy actually to have a picture finished in this book. I have so many started from that little disaster with where my paint went all over the few pages. I'm shading those leaves with the dark umber. We don't want them too light. Just want a little bit of a suggestion that we've got some leaves going on there. Maybe the dark blue, make that look as if we've got some sort of a centre to that flower. Again, not entirely sure what colour I'm going to be doing in robe. It's all worked out okay so far though. Not knowing what I'm doing, and it seems to have worked, so I'm sure we can figure something out. And I'm hoping that these pencils, they're not polychromos, Prismacolor pencils, will be resisting watercolour because they are wax based. So hopefully, even if I manage to go over anything that we've drawn with our pencils, then the pencil should resist the watercolour. So looking fairly close to being done, apart from this robe here and the brown background that I'm planning on doing. So I'm going to grab some watercolours. I think I've fairly decided. I've done about as much of the pencils as I think I can get done. Of course, you can go ahead and colour the whole thing with the Prismacolor pencils, but I'm thinking maybe it might be nice to try and bring that watercolour in and show you how well the watercolour does work on this paper. If any of you are thinking of buying the book, it might be nice to know how well the watercolour actually works. And just before I do that, I'm gonna highlight this hand here. That seems to be in the kind of splash zone where we would be getting highlights now. Okay, onto the watercolour. Alright, to kind of get started on my sort of idea for the background there, I thought maybe we could stick to the umbers and the kind of ochre colours and keep it fairly dark. So the ones that I've picked out from my usual watercolour set, which is the W.H. Smith watercolour set, the watercolours in the tubes, these are the kind of browny sort of ochre colours I've picked out. We've got burnt umber, raw umber, red ochre and burnt sienna. And I'm thinking of maybe just blobbing those on and seeing how they kind of mix together and do their little watercolour thing. Make some nice effects there, see what we can get going on. So I'm just going to put those onto this plate here that I'm using as a palette. You can see I've already used it for some other colours for another picture there. But I'm going to pop that onto the plate. Blob of each of these colours. I do apologise if I knocked the camera there. But I thought maybe it might be quite nice to show how the watercolour does kind of react to this paper. That's raw umber, burnt umber, red ochre. Bring in more into the kind of orangey sort of tones there maybe, but not orange itself, because we do want that butterfly to maybe be the only orange if we can help it. And yeah, these are new tubes, you can see there with the binder kind of blobbing out there. That's a little bit orange as well, so I would use that kind of sparingly, I think. But yeah, to stop myself being kind of intimidated, I'm just gonna try and go right in with these colours. I might have to, oops, might have to swap this upside down here. You can really see what's going on. Mix a few bits of these colours up. I'm not entirely sure if we should wet the paper first. Let's see what we can get going on there, maybe. Yep, this is not clean water, as I have just been mixing up that paint. But at least it will show, hopefully, that the pencil should, in theory, be resisting. Ideally this would be clean water, just to wet the paper first, see if we can get any kind of nice effects going on here. But I just want to let these paints basically bob on and do their own thing, try and mix into each other actually on the paper. And then if needs be, I can go ahead and work into it with pencils. Not really too different there. Maybe you want a bit more of this. Just red ochre. Maybe you want some more of that coming in. You can actually see. I've gone ahead with a couple of the colours there. This is the red ochre. Just trying to see if we can get these colours blending together to give some sort of nice watercolour effects up here. I've talked up how well the watercolour does behave on this paper. It's looking like we do need to wet the paper first though. And find a finer brush to go into all these little details. I do like that red ochre colour. Hopefully that gives us a few nice effects. And I'll go in with the burnt sienna very, very lightly. A few little places. Hopefully that'll blend out a little bit. I don't want to bring in the orange too much, as I said. I want to stick mainly with the dark browns. Let's maybe bring some in the corner there. A little bit darker. We want this background to be pretty dark. We want the dark to be kind of concentrated up towards the top of the page, and my idea is to get the colours becoming really faint and working their way down. As we work our way down, the colours becoming fainter and blending off the edge of the page. This is my my plan. I have a slightly smaller brush here. Maybe we can get in for a few of the details. Keeping more to the umbers, I think, here rather than the ochres, because we do want that dark brown colour, like the dark umber that we were using in the pencil for a lot of shading. We could even bring in the pencil up here. Yeah, I don't want it to look too much as if I have gone in and sort of outlined it all. Maybe drop some clear water on there to see what kind of effects we can get going on. This brush is not ideal, it's pretty thick. Very old brush. I'm hoping it will serve the purpose though. Let's try. Just for fun to see what would kind of happen if I let that go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking we need to wet the paper first. Gone over the flower there. Gonna try and not have too much paint go down into the kind of spine of the book. That was my kind of downfall last time. I do like this red ochre. Go around that flower. Bring in a little bit of burnt sienna, maybe. Yeah, because it is quite a thick book, when you do try and use watercolor, you do end up with the paint kind of pooling in the middle there, down the spine of the book. Which is maybe not ideal because it will tend to spread onto the other pages, as just happened there. Which will give some interesting effects to be able to work with, but it's not entirely what I want. Just grab a tissue and try and dab off the middle of the book there. That might make some nice effects on the... Oh! Yeah, not too bad, quite like that. Which colour did I try and splatter on? Was it this one? That's not too bad. I might be able to bring in the brown and shade that. I'm quite liking it. Let's carry on. I'll be going down to about here, which is where her robe starts to come in. I haven't quite decided what colour that should be yet. I'm thinking yellow ochre would be too bright, too much like that gold that I need to shade at the top there. It's not turning out quite as well as I'd hoped here. And I've hoped for a few more nice kind of watercolour effects going on. It is a background though. We do have some sort of background going on here, some sort of dark background. May need to bring in the black. I think maybe. That's what we're missing. It's a little bit too light, so I'm going to grab the black. So I've got the ivory black there, so I'm just going to water that down a little bit. Try and get that to blend into the browns. Maybe the paper's starting to become a little bit too dry. I might not be able to do this. It's looking a little bit more interesting. Okay, we got something going on there. Let's try that with this side as well. And trying not to bring too much paint into the edge of that paper there. Yeah, I'm liking that with the black. That's what it was missing. It really needs to be rich and dark up the top here. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's looking better. I think I was being a little bit tentative there, getting a little bit afraid of it. So we need to come down this side here now. That will just be with the original kind of 4 colours, I think. The umbers and the red ochre. I'm concentrating, so sorry if there's parts there where I'm not speaking. I usually try and cut those out, but really I'm just trying to make this interesting, have something happen. That's the main kind of aim here. Some kind of nice watercolor effects in those background. Starting dark at the top. Now that we've brought that black in, that's really working a lot better, I think. Oops, camera has shifted. There we go. Sorry, we might have been at a little bit of an angle there. I got up to get the watercolors and I think I kind of nudged the tripod camera holder thing. We do have a line here for her shoulder, I think, so I'm going to go down there. Again, just blobbing loads of colours on. Trying to get something that's kind of aesthetically pleasing, shall we say. I do want it to be quite dark around this shoulder because I'm planning on having a robe. I think I've decided to be the yellow ochre. And just blending off down into the bottom. I will come in probably with the pencils again, with a little bit of shading for this brown, maybe add some white highlights to these little bits of flowers we've got going on here, although it is kind of far away. Let's turn this around again. There we go. For our robe, the idea is to come in with a yellow ochre, keep the colour fairly strong here on the shoulders, and kind of fade down somehow. Maybe blend into clear water. I'll have to go and get some clear water after all those browns, but fade into maybe clear water here, with these sketchy lines just showing where her robe kind of comes in. So that's the plan. I'm hoping that will work. So I'll just go and change my paint water so I have actually got some clear water to be using here. Okay, I've been and gotten some clear water there, which I did actually manage to spill onto the actual painting. Oh well, it might add to the effects we've got going on in the background there. But the plan is to paint on some clear water, kind of down towards here where the end of her robe comes in, and have the colour come down and kind of bleed into that clear water to give a nice sort of soft edge here, with maybe these lines carrying on outside of where the actual paint comes in. We'll have to see what actually works out there, how that actually happens, but I think the idea is sound. We'll go for it. To keep the background in the kind of orangey sort of ochre, sort of parchment colours maybe, and then I can go in and maybe and a shade with pencils to see if we can get something happening here. Everything else is working pretty nicely, I think. So with this clear water, if we can see that, I'm going to paint kind of in this sort of area. Make sure I'm going quite a way towards the bottom, so let's see what interesting effects we can get when this yellow ochre sort of bleeds into that white paint. So hopefully we'll be able to see what kind of effects we get when that yellow ochre blends down into that clean water. And I'm thinking this painting will necessitate me going and getting my hair dryer, because I don't think I really have time to be sitting and waiting for this to dry. It's okay, let's see, I'll mix up this paint. I have some paint there, I've brought out the yellow ochre, I'm going to mix it up really quite watery. And see what kind of effects we can get when it does bleed down into that clean water. Something interesting, I hope. Something like that, that seems to be working. Just to have it disappearing kind of into that clear water at the bottom. So the paper really does stand up to a lot of water. You can see there's probably a lot more water than I should be using there, and the paper is standing up to it really, really well. It is more along the lines of watercolour paper than actual, I think, pencil paper. It does lend itself a lot more to the paint. And that is the kind of effect I was looking at, having this colour being fairly solid towards the top there, and then blending out more into the clear water towards the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get something similar happening the other side, with the colour being more concentrated towards the top where her shoulders are. Then we can come in there with the pencils and shade that a little bit. I'm thinking, or I'm hoping that that would work. I'm going to try and leave quite a pale area around our butterfly, because we still want that butterfly to be looking as if he is glowing. So maybe we should damp off a little bit of that edge there. But we still want him to look as if he's glowing, so I'm going to try and leave quite pale colours around him. This side would have less kind of colour to it because we are close to that butterfly, I'm thinking. So I'll just let it kind of blend out into that clear water at the bottom there. Maybe we could have a little bit more here to find those flowers a little bit more. Okay, that's looking kind of what I had in mind, I think. So I'm going to give that a quick blast with the hairdryer just to speed things along the way, because we're getting quite late in the day now. I would like to get this finished all in one go on camera, so I'm going to try and blast that with a hairdryer to maybe be able to move ahead. a quick blast with the hairdryer there just to get us dry enough to actually be working on. And now all we need is a few little finishing touches, I think, a little bit more shading. My stick-on crystals were lying around and I've just tried out a little green one there, so that's working pretty nicely. So I might go ahead and stick on a few of those in a little bit, but for now I'm going to take the dark umber and I'm going to do a little bit of shading around this top part of her crown here. Now that we've gone ahead and dried the watercolour, we should be able to just define a few little edges here. Definitely shade that gold. But I probably won't give it the highlights that I usually do, because we do want it to be actually fairly subdued, fairly dark. Just filling in here any kind of bits that we missed with the brush. And again, just trying to make it look as if there is some sort of crown going on here. It's a bit hard to tell, especially now we've painted the edges. It's a bit hard to tell what is actually going on here, but we can darken the edge a lot around our lady as well to blend that more into the paint colour. Yeah, that's not looking too bad, I don't think. I really think it helped bringing in this kind of black colour into the corners there. I think that's really given us what we needed. But I want to stick to the brown for the shading here, because any bits furthest away from our butterfly, which is supposed to be the light source, it hasn't turned out to look quite as glowy as I would have liked. The actual butterfly itself, it does look as if there's some sort of light coming from the bottom of the page, so it's worked well enough, I think. It's given us quite a nice little effect. Maybe if I go in and actually do a white outline around the butterfly, that might help. But anything that's up here, kind of furthest away, is going to be blending into the background anyway. So I'm just putting in a bit of shading, going over a few bits of the crown, so the colours are not quite as in your face, shall we say, not quite as oh, what's the word? Saturated, that's the word. And there won't be any white highlights around here, possibly. Let's define that flower while I'm thinking about it. A kind of approximation of a flower there. That's kind of something that we were round about what we were expecting there, I think. Just define a few of these lines a little bit more. Let's come into the colour of her dress, kimono, clothes. I think I said I was going to call it. I'm not entirely sure. Definitely looking like what we want now. Yeah, kind of happy with that. Definitely got the focal point kind of here, I think. Maybe we'll bring in a little bit of that brown shading into her face, just to echo what is going on with that background there, and actually take it back into the background a little bit, hopefully. Again, it's desaturating that blue very slightly. A little bit of brown added to that hair. Nice. Let me sketch in a little bit of this line art, which is very faint. Around the neck here would have a bit of shading. Definitely have some shading here behind her hand. Not sure it would be that colour though. What colour is this goldenrod? I might do it. Yeah, that's kind of the same kind of ochre colour. Yep, that's quite a nice shading colour for that actually. So let's just bring in a little bit of shadow behind that thumb there. A layer of that darker brown, and then another layer of this goldenrod over the top. The goldenrod is PC1034. Which seems to be a really good colour to be shading this robe actually. I don't want too much definition to this robe because it's not really a huge part of the picture. It's only very, very faintly drawn in, very kind of sketchily sort of drawn in there. Especially around that butterfly that is supposed to be glowing there. I think we might have sort of got some sort of light source coming from this corner, this kind of area. Maybe we need to darken this bottom here, but I do like the fact that this robe is kind of bleeding off or fading off down the bottom of the page, down where that page number is. I'm not entirely sure what's happening over here, but we will be getting darker over here, I would imagine. Let's bring in the line up. Slightly dark for the shading there. That's this one. How about Ochre Brulee, which is PC943 with that. Oh yeah, that's quite nice. That's kind of echoing this warmer colour tone we've got in the background here, so that, yeah, that's working quite well. To make her robe there, but yeah, not super noticeable. Let me blend that with the cream. that kind of sets it apart from the background, but only slightly. Which is intentional, yeah. Set apart from the background, but yeah, very slightly. We want her fading into the background, with just the middle part being the focus there. Definitely need to blend with the cream here. I do want to give a fairly strong shadow here because we are being lit by the butterfly, theoretically. So we will bring in the gel pen there. Maybe blend that bit with the white. Totally sure I like the way that the brulee kind of blends with the white there. That really should have been blended with the cream. But it does give the effect that the butterfly is glowing, maybe. We want to bring in the white gel pen a little bit more, I think. Here. On the edge of this robe here. It's not liking this paper. We really need to make sure there's a white outline around the butterfly. Maybe that will look as if he's glowing a little bit more. A few little sparkles maybe, that will help. Yeah, that's helping, I think. Maybe. That little butterfly is lighting up most of the image. This part we want to be kind of sketchy looking anyway. Might actually darken a little bit of a shadow behind our lady here. Separate her from the background a little bit more than I really intended. So I don't think it was quite working the way that I wanted it to. That's working a little better. We can bring in that brulee, something brulee, is this called? Ochre brulee. They do have some odd names. So it kind of fits in with this sort of orange colour we got happening here. Carry that on. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I'm quite liking that actually. That's working pretty well as intended. Maybe it doesn't look quite as much as the butterfly is glowing as I really envisioned, but I think that the effect is kind of there. We definitely have an area of glow around this kind of area, so yeah, it seems to be sort of along the same lines as what I intended. And even if it's not exactly the same, I think we've got a nice effect going on there. And yeah, this book works really well with the watercolour. The only thing I would say to watch out for is that it does tend to drip down into the spine of the book because the pages I'm so sorry about that, guys. My phone ran out of battery, so it shut off and stopped recording. But I think all that you managed to miss was a few little finishing details where I was shading with the pencils here. And I just carried on, finished off a little bit of shading with the pencils that I showed you. And then I looked at my phone and saw it wasn't recording, so I have called it for the day. So I'll make this outro pretty brief so as not to run out of battery again. I've just given it a little bit of a charge. And I think the main points that I've come across for doing this actual colouring is that Prismacolors work really well on this paper. The colours are not as bright as they would be on the white paper because the paper is slightly off-white and it's really textured and soft. So the colours do tend to end up not quite as bright as they would be. It does work really well. This paper does work really well with watercolor. So you can see here, the only problem is because it's such a thick book, the pages do end up kind of bending down into the spine when you've got it open. So your watercolor might end up coming down into the spine there and staining other pages. I think we have managed to miss that on this one. Just checking quickly. Yeah, we've gotten away with it pretty well on this one. So yeah, that is just another point. It's really nice paper to work with watercolor and Prismacolors. So I'll keep this pretty short, as I said. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I did manage to get most of it onto camera, so hopefully that's been interesting for you guys to follow along. It might inspire people to actually break into this book and get some pictures coloured and not be so intimidated with it. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye.